It was a warm Tuesday morning in Austin, Texas, when 31-year-old Danielle Foster stared at the mirror of her small apartment bathroom, adjusting the collar of her only decent blazer. The nerves were real, and understandably so. Today, she would stand in front of the biggest names in business. Today, she'd be pitching her startup, SipSafe, on Shark Tank. SipSafe was a clever little invention born out of a night gone wrong. 2 years earlier, Danielle had gone out with her college friends in downtown Dallas. What started as a fun evening turned into a nightmare when one of her friends unknowingly drank from a spiked cocktail. The trauma of that night stuck with her, and so did the idea. A few months later, with a background in chemistry and a passion for social safety, she developed SipSafe, a compact, disposable straw that could detect common-date rape drugs instantly and change color when a drink was tampered with. She had mortgaged her car, maxed out 3 credit cards, and worked double shifts to keep the prototype moving forward. And now, standing in the long corridor that led to the famous Shark Tank studio, she whispered to herself, "This is it. Make them believe." When the doors opened and the music cue hit, Danielle walked onto the carpeted stage with more determination than fear. The Sharks, Mark Cuban, Barbara Corcoran, Kevin O'Leary, Lori Grainer, and Damon John, sat before her, arms folded, waiting to hear something worth their money. "Hi Sharks, my name is Danielle Foster. I'm the founder of SipSafe, and I'm seeking $150,000 for 10% of my company." She launched into her pitch with passion, walking them through her personal story, the science behind her product, and a brief demonstration. As the straw changed color instantly when dipped in a doctored cocktail, you could almost feel the energy in the room shift. Even Kevin O'Leary leaned forward, intrigued. "I developed SipSafe because no one should have to second-guess their safety while having a good time," she said. "It's compact, affordable, and potentially life-saving." The first few questions came in rapid fire. How accurate is the detection? What's the cost to manufacture? Have you done any sales yet? What's the legal side of this? Danielle held her ground. "We've sold $40,000 worth in pre-orders in the last 3 months. Our manufacturing cost is 60 cents per straw, and we sell packs of 5 for $9.99. We're currently in talks with several universities and bar chains. And yes, we've already begun the patent process." Mark Cuban narrowed his eyes. "Look, I love the mission. But this is a really sensitive area. Liability could be huge. What happens if the straw doesn't work?" Danielle answered calmly, "It's not a guarantee, but a safeguard, just like seatbelts. It adds another layer of protection." Then Lori jumped in. "Danielle, I love this. It's practical, simple, and has massive retail potential. I'm willing to offer you $150,000 for 20%. I want to help get this into every Target and CVS across the country." Before Danielle could respond, Damon added, "Wait a minute, Lori. I think this has major branding potential. We could collaborate with influencers, college brands. I'll give you $150,000 for 15%. The room tensed. 2 sharks were already on board, and Danielle's face was a mix of awe and disbelief. For a girl who had sold used textbooks online just to buy lab supplies, this moment was surreal. Kevin O'Leary, never one to be left out, leaned forward. "I'll offer $150,000 for 12%, but I want a $1 royalty per pack until I make my money back. Then the royalty drops to 25 cents per pack." The offers were on the table. Danielle took a deep breath and asked, "Would you two," pointing to Lori and Damon, "be willing to go in together?" They exchanged a glance. Lori smiled. "You know what? Sure, $150,000 for 20%, split between us." Danielle nodded slowly, heart-pounding. "Deal." The sharks clapped. Lori walked up and gave her a warm hug. "You're going to save lives with this." As Danielle walked off the stage, emotions overtook her. The tears she'd held back finally came. She didn't just get a deal, she'd gained belief. And that belief would fuel something much bigger than she ever imagined. Just days after the Shark Tank episode aired, Danielle Foster's world flipped upside down. Her inbox exploded with hundreds of messages, some from universities and bar chains wanting to stock SipSafe, and others from women sharing harrowing stories and thanking her for building a product that might have saved them if it existed earlier. Her website, which had been averaging 5 sales a day, now crashed within the first 2 hours of the episode's broadcast. In just 72 hours, she'd sold over $250,000 in product. The order backlog was immense, but the excitement was even bigger. Behind the scenes, things got real fast. Lori Grainer's team moved like a NASCAR pit crew. Within weeks, SipSafe had a dedicated legal team to finalize patents, a scalable fulfillment partner, and a connection to a major packaging design firm. Lori believed presentation was everything, and she was right. "We're going to make SipSafe a must-have accessory, not just a product," Lori had said during one of their early Zoom calls. "Think of it like chapstick, affordable, discreet, but absolutely essential." Damon focused on branding. He helped redesign the packaging with bold, youthful colors and catchy slogans like "Test it before you trust it." He pulled strings with influencer marketing agencies and recruited several popular TikTok creators and Instagram health advocates to share videos using SipSafe at bars and parties. Within a month, the hashtag SipSafe challenge was trending. The buzz created a ripple effect in unexpected places. The University of Florida ordered 20,000 packs for incoming freshmen. A nightlife chain in Las Vegas requested customized SipSafe branded kits for VIP customers. Even a few police departments reached out asking for educational partnerships. But success wasn't without challenges. By month 4, a competitor surfaced, an overseas knockoff product being sold for cheaper online despite not working consistently. Danielle, with Lori's legal team, filed cease and desist letters and focused on one message: trust the original. Trust SipSafe. Danielle's schedule was now a whirlwind: media interviews, investor meetings, pitch events, and warehouse visits. Yet she remained grounded, returning emails personally to survivors who had thanked her. In an interview on Good Morning America, Danielle said something that went viral. "This isn't just about profit. It's about giving people, especially women, the power to feel safe. If SipSafe makes even one person think twice before something tragic happens, we've already won." That soundbite echoed far and wide. Sales surged again. By the end of the first year post-Shark Tank, SipSafe had made $4.3 million in revenue. But the bigger impact wasn't in dollars. It was in lives touched, awareness raised, and Danielle's transformation from a scrappy solo inventor to a nationally recognized entrepreneur and advocate. She was invited to speak at conferences, received a small business award from the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, and was even featured in Forbes 30 Under 30. Schools, bars, nonprofits, they all wanted her on board. One day, as Danielle walked into her new Dallas office space, bigger than any lab she'd ever dreamed of, she looked at the framed Shark Tank photo on the wall. It was the moment she shook hands with Lori and Damon. That handshake wasn't just a deal. It was a turning point. She smiled and whispered, "We're just getting started." While Danielle Foster and SipSafe were the face of one kind of impact, a social good innovation turned mainstream hit, the truth is, her story was just one domino in a growing line of Shark Tank miracles. What began as a reality show had quietly evolved into one of the greatest platforms for entrepreneurial transformation in modern America. Take, for instance, Bombas, the sock company that walked into the tank with a one-for-one model and walked out with a deal from Damon John. The founders, David Heath and Randy Goldberg, pitched a sock with reinforced stitching, built-in arch support, and blister tabs designed for comfort, but more importantly, created to serve the homeless. For every pair sold, they donated one. What started as a humble pitch grew into a powerhouse. Within 5 years, Bombas had crossed over $100 million in sales and donated millions of socks to shelters across the country. Their model inspired dozens of entrepreneurs to adopt buy one give one systems, showing that business could be both profitable and purpose-driven. Then there was Scrub Daddy, the quirky smiling sponge that became a household name. Aaron Krause, the energetic inventor behind it, impressed Lori Grainer with a live demo showing how the sponge would change texture depending on water temperature. She saw the potential not just in the sponge, but in Aaron's energy. That $200,000 investment turned into one of the most successful Shark Tank products ever, with over $250 million in lifetime sales. It wasn't just a cleaning product. It became a brand empire with Scrub Mommy, Scour Daddy, Eraser Daddy, and more. Scrub Daddy transformed from a novelty item into a staple of American households. All thanks to one pitch and Lori's relentless push to get it into every retail aisle. But the power of the tank wasn't just in flashy numbers. It was also in redemption stories like that of Tipsy Elves, a brand that sold ugly Christmas sweaters. Founders Evan Mendelsohn and Nick Morton were laughed at by some investors, but not by Robert Herjavec. He saw the humor, the branding potential, and the holiday sales window that could become a gold mine. With Robert's guidance, Tipsy Elves grew from $600,000 in sales at the time of the pitch to over $125 million in revenue. They branched into ski gear, patriotic wear, and quirky holiday costumes, proving that fun could be fiercely profitable. Danielle Foster often reflected on these stories as she grew SipSafe. "I realized we weren't alone," she said in a podcast interview. "Every Shark Tank success made space for the next one. People started believing in small business again." The show had created a new kind of American dream, one where the underdog could rise not just with a good idea, but with guidance from people who'd already built empires. For many viewers, it wasn't just entertainment. It was inspiration. It was education. It was hope. Each episode of Shark Tank became a masterclass in entrepreneurship. Phrases like valuation, royalties, margin, and equity split entered everyday vocabulary. Kids started watching with their parents. High school business classes made students pitch mock ideas in mini Shark Tank exercises. One study even showed a 40% increase in small business registrations in states where Shark Tank viewership was highest. Danielle herself received letters from young girls who wanted to be inventors, not just influencers. And she wrote back to every single one of them. "The sharks invested in us," she'd write. "Now it's time we invest in you." With every success story born from Shark Tank, there's an untold chapter, the uphill climb after the cameras stop rolling. For Danielle Foster, the post-show buzz was both a blessing and a beast. After the initial sales boom and viral marketing wave, she ran into a problem that many entrepreneurs don't anticipate until it hits them like a freight train. Scaling pains. Demand for SipSafe skyrocketed. That was great until her small batch manufacturer couldn't keep up. Delays mounted. Customers started complaining about shipping times. A few angry TikToks went viral accusing the brand of being all hype, no delivery. Danielle was devastated. She hadn't slept more than 4 hours a night in weeks. Her tiny team of 6, all working from her Dallas office, was stretched thin. Calls from retail buyers, university contracts, and investor inquiries filled her days, and her stress level hit a new peak. She hopped on a video call with Lori Grainer, her shark partner. "I'm failing," Danielle admitted, her voice cracking. "I can't keep up. People are getting mad. I don't want to blow this." Lori leaned in with a calm, steady smile. "Danielle, you're not failing. You're experiencing growing pains. That means you're doing something right. Now let's fix it." With Lori's help, they switched manufacturers to a mid-sized plant in Ohio that could deliver 5 times the output at a similar price. Damon connected her with a logistics consultant who streamlined her fulfillment pipeline. It was a hard, expensive, and emotionally draining adjustment, but it saved the company. Danielle wasn't alone. All over the Shark Tank ecosystem, founders faced similar stories. The pressure of instant exposure and sudden orders brought logistical nightmares. Some failed to meet the moment. Others barely scraped through. A few burned out. Like the founders of Breathometer, a personal breathalyzer that had secured a deal with all 5 sharks in a rare show of unity. They sold over $5 million worth after their episode aired, but couldn't deliver the tech they promised. The device underperformed, and the Federal Trade Commission eventually ordered refunds to customers. Mark Cuban later called it one of his worst Shark Tank investments. Then there was Toygaroo, a Netflix for toys rental service backed by Cuban and Kevin O'Leary. It seemed like a genius idea at the time. Parents could rent and rotate toys for their kids. But inventory costs and shipping logistics crushed them. The business declared bankruptcy within a year. These weren't stories of greed or incompetence. They were stories of how hard business really is, even with the best intentions and brightest ideas. Danielle made it through that storm by learning one powerful truth: success isn't in the pitch, it's in the persistence. She started hosting monthly Founders Anonymous Zoom calls with other Shark Tank alumni. It was a safe space to talk through real issues: hiring problems, supplier delays, investor tension, and the emotional toll of leadership. Some of the biggest names in the Shark Tank universe joined. They shared war stories, cried, laughed, gave honest advice. It wasn't just about getting rich, it was about staying sane. Danielle's journey helped her realize that Shark Tank wasn't a magic wand. It was a launchpad, a once-in-a-lifetime shot at the big leagues. But it was what came next: the nights you didn't sleep, the pivots you had to make, the courage to admit mistakes, that determined whether your rocket stayed in the sky. And for every Bombas or Scrub Daddy, there were dozens of others clawing their way through the trenches, quietly building, quietly surviving. That part never made it into the final cut of the show, but it's where the real legends were forged. It's been more than a decade since Shark Tank first aired in American living rooms. At the time, Few believed a reality show about business pitches could make a lasting impact. But the show did more than just survive, it redefined entrepreneurship in America. Danielle Foster, now CEO of SipSafe, looked back on her journey during a keynote speech at the National Women's Entrepreneurship Conference in Chicago. On stage, beneath a massive screen flashing images of the original Shark Tank set, she addressed a crowd of young founders, investors, and dreamers. "This show didn't just change my business," she said. "It changed my life. It changed the way Americans see possibility." And she was right. Before Shark Tank, entrepreneurship was seen as a distant, risky game, played only by tech wizards in Silicon Valley or wealthy insiders. But Shark Tank made the idea of launching a product, solving a problem, or building a brand something anyone could attempt. A schoolteacher with a side hustle, a single mom with an invention, a retired firefighter with a dream, they all became stars on the Tank stage. The impact was felt far beyond television ratings. According to a joint report by the Small Business Administration and Harvard Business School, new business applications increased by over 30% between 2010 and 2023, much of which analysts attribute to cultural shifts inspired by media like Shark Tank. In classrooms across the country, business pitch competitions became more common than science fairs. Young students cited Mark Cuban or Barbara Corcoran as their role models instead of athletes or musicians. The idea of building something from nothing became cool. But the biggest impact, it was the democratization of belief. Before Shark Tank, if someone said, "I have an idea," they'd often be met with skepticism. Now, those words invite curiosity, respect, sometimes even investment. Entrepreneurs like the founders of Ring, Squatty Potty, the Books Company, and the Comfy, all Shark Tank alumni, proved that ideas could go from a living room to a living legend. And even those who didn't get a deal often found success. Just appearing on the show gave them visibility and credibility. Danielle's SipSafe was now stocked in over 15,000 retail locations across the U.S., had partnerships with national safety organizations, and had launched a nonprofit arm to educate teens and college students about personal safety. But she never forgot where it started. In her office hung a framed whiteboard on which was scribbled the original pitch she wrote at 2 a.m. weeks before her audition. SipSafe, empowering people to drink smarter, live safer. Below it, a photo of her standing beside Lori and Damon holding the first prototype. As she wrapped up her speech in Chicago, Danielle looked out at the crowd. If you're sitting there wondering if your idea is good enough, let me tell you, it is. If you're scared you won't make it, let me tell you, you might fail, but that doesn't mean you won't win. Shark Tank gave me a shot. But it's the grit, the growth, and the grind afterward that changed everything. Thunderous applause filled the auditorium. That's the legacy of Shark Tank. Not just money, not just deals, but the rebirth of the American dream, one pitch, one product, one person at a time.